Right? You had Marty, Joe Pesci,
Jimmy. It was crazy. Plus all those crazy guys that play all the gangsters, you know.
For decades, she's been a Hollywood icon, a symbol of fearless performances and an attitude that just refuses to be tamed. But behind the dazzling lights and captivating on-screen personas, Sharon Stone has navigated a treacherous landscape of difficult personalities and outright toxic behavior. For years, she played by the rules, upholding the unspoken code of Hollywood silence. But the whispers never really stopped. And now, the truth is coming out. But let's be clear, this isn't some list she tweeted out or a casual remark in an interview. The reality is way more complex and, honestly, more revealing. It's a story pieced together from her own courageous words in her explosive memoir, The Beauty of Living Twice, from bombshell podcast interviews where the gloves finally came off, and from decades of credible Hollywood reports that hinted at the turmoil just beneath the surface. So while Stone herself hasn't released a formal numbered hate list, a very clear picture has emerged. It's a picture of the individuals who allegedly created unprofessional, disrespectful, and at times deeply hostile environments on her film sets. These are the stories of the co-stars and powerful figures who pushed Sharon Stone to her absolute limit. Today, we're looking at the 6 most prominent and well-documented cases that represent the struggles she faced. This is an in-depth look at the on-set battles, the power plays, and the shocking behavior that Sharon Stone has finally brought into the light. Let's get into it. Coming in at number 6 is a name synonymous with blockbuster action, Sylvester Stallone. In 1994, pairing Sharon Stone and Sylvester Stallone for the action thriller The Specialist seemed like a brilliant move. Stone was at the height of her fame after Basic Instinct and Sliver, while Stallone was riding a huge career, wave with hits like Cliffhanger and Demolition Man. On paper, their combined star power was a guaranteed box office smash. Behind the scenes, however, reports suggested a different kind of explosion. This wasn't necessarily a case of outright hatred, but more of a classic clash between two massive Hollywood egos, each with their own way of working and a very specific vision for the film. Sources from the production hinted at a palpable friction between the two stars. Stone, known for her intense approach to her characters, and Stallone, the master of physicality, were rumored to have different ideas about their scenes and the movie's overall tone. The movie was marketed as a sexually charged thriller, a genre Stone had mastered. Stallone, despite his action hero status, was on less familiar ground. In interviews at the time, both actors kept it professional. Stallone even noted that Stone had more experience with love scenes, while he had more with explosions, framing it as a partnership. Yet, industry insiders whispered that this partnership was often strained, with crew members carefully navigating the orbits of its two huge stars. According to some reports, the tension came from creative differences. Stone was reportedly focused on the psychological depth of her character, while Stallone was focused on delivering the high-impact action his audience craved. This kind of push and pull isn't rare in Hollywood, but with two of the biggest stars on the planet, sparks were bound to fly. Years later, Stone would talk more generally about the challenges of being labeled difficult for simply asserting her professional opinion. While she hasn't recently gone on record to blast her time with Stallone, the stories from The Specialist fit a pattern she would later describe: a fight for creative control and respect in a male-dominated industry. At one press conference for the film, Stallone joked about their on-screen chemistry, saying, "I'm definitely not going to be on the bottom," a clear nod to Stone's dominant role in Basic Instinct. It was a light-hearted comment, but maybe it hinted at the power dynamics at play. The film was a box office success, but the rumored on-set friction is a perfect example of a common Hollywood problem. This case wasn't about a personal grudge that blew up in public, but about the professional strain that comes from the intense pressure and creative conflict of a high-stakes Hollywood production. At number 5, we shift from a clash of titans to something maybe even more frustrating. This isn't about a specific actor, but an archetype Sharon Stone has described in her own words, a problem that says a lot about the disrespect she put up with. In her journey of speaking out, Stone has detailed working with actors whose unprofessionalism was a fundamental betrayal of the craft. In one revealing account, Stone described working with a younger, up-and-coming actor. This individual, whose name she has kept private, showed a galling lack of discipline. According to Stone, this co-star was constantly late, often showed up unprepared, and seemed to think a chaotic approach was a good substitute for actual preparation. She compared the experience to babysitting someone who thought being edgy was more important than doing the work. That kind of behavior can poison a film set. For a dedicated actor like Stone, known for her meticulous prep, working with someone who won't meet that standard is infuriating. It forces the prepared actor to carry the scene, compensating for their partner's lack of focus and trying to create a believable connection from nothing. Stone's description paints a vivid picture of that struggle, a professional trying to build something real while her partner was more interested in performing the role of a rebellious artist. This wasn't just about bad chemistry, it was a clash of philosophies. Stone has always treated acting as a serious job that demands discipline. Her frustration wasn't that of a diva, but of a seasoned pro watching her work get undermined. This story fits into a larger pattern Stone has exposed. In her memoir, she describes a producer suggesting she sleep with a different male co-star to improve his on-screen performance, a suggestion she found completely degrading. The underlying message was the same. The responsibility for a male actor's shortcomings, whether it was lack of talent or professionalism, was put on her shoulders. Her job, it seemed, wasn't just to act, but to manage and coddle the men around her. Her refusal to play this part, to accept unprofessionalism or fix her male co-stars, helped build her reputation for being difficult. As she told one publication, people found her difficult because she was asking for things she felt were appropriate for herself and other women. In this context, difficult was just the word for a woman who demanded basic professional respect. So while we don't have a name, this story is powerful. It represents a recurring battle Stone fought against a culture that often valued male ego over the disciplined work of making a film. Coming in at number 4 is an actor often seen as the charming, suave leading man, Richard Gere. The movie was the 1994 drama Intersection, which required a deep, believable connection between its leads. Gere played an architect torn between his elegant but cold wife, played by Stone, and his passionate new lover. The whole film hinges on the complicated history between Stone's and Gere's characters. However, according to persistent industry rumors that have swirled for years, the on-set vibe between the two was anything but warm. Reports from the time of filming suggested a chilly and distant working relationship. While neither Stone nor Gere has ever publicly confirmed a feud, the lack of real chemistry in the final film was noticed by critics, which seemed to support the rumors. This situation highlights a different kind of on-set problem. Not explosive fights, but the quiet, draining experience of working with someone who is emotionally checked out. For an actor like Sharon Stone, who invests so much in finding the emotional truth of a scene, working opposite a co-star who is reportedly disengaged can be incredibly hard. Acting is a reactive dance, but when one partner is walled off, the other is left dancing alone. It forces a performance that feels technical instead of authentic. You have to wonder how much of the on-screen chill in their characters' marriage was a reflection of the off-screen reality. The whispers around Intersection suggest that Gere and Stone just had different approaches that didn't mesh. There were no reported screaming matches. Instead, it was described as a quiet, professional distance. But in a film about love and betrayal, that quiet distance can be deadly. You can almost see it in the final cut. Moments that should crackle with tension instead feel strangely flat. This case shows a subtle but critical side of on-set dynamics. Sometimes, outright conflict can create on-screen sparks. A cold, indifferent atmosphere, on the other hand, is much harder to overcome. This is all based on long-standing rumors, not on the record statements. Stone hasn't put Richard Gere on any public list of actors she hated working with. Still, the consistent story that came out of the Intersection production places it firmly in the category of her difficult professional experiences. It's a powerful example of how a lack of personal chemistry can be just as damaging as any open hostility. Moving to number 3, we enter the world of one of the 90s most acclaimed films and one of Stone's most celebrated performances, Martin Scorsese's 1995 masterpiece, Casino. Her role as Ginger McKenna earned her a Golden Globe and an Oscar nomination. The film was a masterclass in tension, much of it generated by the volatile relationship between Ginger, her husband Ace, Robert De Niro, and her manipulative ex-boyfriend, the pimp Lester Diamond, played by James Woods. The on-screen relationship between Stone's Ginger and Woods's Lester is electric with toxicity. He is the... So why is this case on the list? Because it shows just how complex Hollywood narratives can be. For years, the story was one of friction. It's possible it was just gossip, fueled by their intensely antagonistic roles. It's also possible that Stone is simply choosing to remember the positive aspects of a challenging collaboration. This case is a fascinating look at how the lines between a brutal on-screen story and the real-life creative process can get blurred in Hollywood history. Before we get to our explosive top 2, if you're finding this look behind the Hollywood curtain fascinating, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We're always digging into the stories that Hollywood doesn't want you to hear, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's get back to the list. Our number 2 spot is different. It's bigger than a simple feud or a difficult co-star. This isn't about an actor she hated working with. It's about a system of abuse and harassment that Sharon Stone has bravely exposed, personified by powerful men who saw her as an object to be controlled. These stories are about profound violations of personal and professional boundaries. In her powerful 2021 memoir, The Beauty of Living Twice, Stone details multiple harrowing experiences with producers and studio executives. One of the most shocking revelations involves an unnamed Sony executive in the 1980s. She described being called into his office where he paced around, complimenting her. He told her, "It's true what they say about you. You're the most gorgeous. We haven't seen anyone like you in decades." Then, the meeting took a horrifying turn. Stone alleges that the executive came right up in front of her and exposed himself. She recalls reacting with a mix of hysterical laughter and tears, a response born of pure shock. This story isn't about a hated actor, but it's arguably more important. It reveals the groundwork of misogyny and abuse that she was up against. When you understand that this was the environment, where a woman could be summoned to an office and sexually harassed with zero consequences, her later struggles with co-stars and producers take on a new, more serious light. Her refusals to be silenced weren't just acts of professional assertiveness, they were acts of survival in a predatory culture. Stone has been clear that speaking out has negatively impacted her career. The men she has alluded to, she says, know who they are, and the system has protected them while punishing her for telling the truth. Furthermore, Stone has described a pervasive culture where she was repeatedly pressured by producers to sleep with her male co-stars to create better on-screen chemistry. The grotesque suggestion was that she, the woman, was the problem, and her body was the tool to fix it. This entry isn't a single person, but an entire system of abuse that Stone confronted. It's the faceless executive, the unnamed producer, and the culture of silence that enabled them. By speaking out, Stone isn't just settling old scores. She is challenging the very foundations of power in Hollywood. It's the crucial context for understanding the #1 spot on our list. And now for #1. This is the most explosive and the most recent revelation from Sharon Stone, where she finally put names to a story she had been telling for years. This case involves her 1993 erotic thriller Sliver, her co-star Billy Baldwin, and the legendary producer, the late Robert Evans. For years, Stone had recounted a disturbing story from the set of Sliver. She described being called into a producer's office and being pressured to sleep with her male co-star to save the movie. For years, the identities remained anonymous. But in a bombshell March 2024 interview on the Louis Theroux podcast, Stone finally named them. The producer, she revealed, was Robert Evans. The co-star was Billy Baldwin. Stone painted a vivid, damning picture of the meeting. She described Evans running around his office in his sunglasses, explaining to me that he slept with Ava Gardner and I should sleep with Billy Baldwin, because if I slept with Billy Baldwin's performance would get better. The pressure was immense. The problem with the movie, according to Evans, was her. She was the problem because she was so uptight and not like a real actress who could just fix things. This revelation is staggering. Stone was at the peak of her power, coming off the global phenomenon of Basic Instinct. Yet a powerful producer reduced her to a tool for fixing a male co-star's alleged performance issues. In her memoir, she wrote with scathing clarity, "Now, you think if I fuck him, he will become a fine actor? Nobody's that good in bed?" She felt they should have just hired a talented co-star in the first place. Her refusal reportedly created an incredibly tense atmosphere on the set of Sliver, particularly with Baldwin. Having to act intimately with someone after being told you are responsible for their performance through sexual favors is an impossibly toxic situation. After Stone publicly named both men, Billy Baldwin took to social media to respond. He didn't deny the core of the story, but fired back, claiming Stone had a crush on him and was still hurt. He also made veiled threats about telling his own stories about her. For many, his defensive reaction only seemed to add weight to Stone's account. This incident is the culmination of everything Sharon Stone has spoken out against. It's the intersection of systemic sexism, the abuse of power, and the direct negative impact on her working relationships. She was labeled difficult because she refused to be coerced. She was difficult because she had boundaries. This case, more than any other, lays bare the ugly reality behind the Hollywood glamour and solidifies its place at the top of this list. So what have we learned from this? It's clear that a sensational hate list title barely scratches the surface. This isn't about petty squabbles. It's a chronicle of one woman's fight against a deeply entrenched culture of misogyny, disrespect, and abuse of power. From the clash of egos with Sylvester Stallone to the frustrating unprofessionalism of unnamed actors, each case reveals a different challenge she faced. But it's in the final two accounts, the systemic harassment she detailed in her memoir and the shocking demand on the set of Sliver, that the true picture comes into focus. Sharon Stone was labeled difficult, but what that really meant was, she was difficult for those who wanted to control her, for those who expected her to fix their own shortcomings, and for men who saw her power not as an asset, but as a threat. For decades, she mostly carried these burdens in silence. But now, through her memoir and her courageous interviews, she has reshaped the narrative. Her story isn't just about challenging co-stars. It's a testament to her resilience and a powerful indictment of the system she dared to challenge. What do you think? Does hearing the full story, especially the confirmed details behind Sliver, change how you view the pressures on women in Hollywood? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.